Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
And welcome to another very special edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. It is very late on a Sunday night, but we got a lots to talk about, a lots to discuss. We got ratings to talk about. We got Becky Lynch to talk about. That's right. We got some Becky Lynch news to go over. And of course, we got Friday Night SmackDown as we are getting closer and closer to War Games, Survivor Series War Games in 2 weeks, man. 2 weeks. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, man. It's freaking mind-blowing, bro. So lots to discuss in this show. Before we do such, man, I want to give a quick shout out to Carlo, who is known as the Average Sports Guy. If you guys have not checked social media through Facebook page, through Instagram, as well as TikTok. I had the pleasure on being with the Average Sports Guy, of course, known as Carlo, on his podcast as we talked who is potentially going to be dethroning our current champions in WWE. So we made a little bit of predictions. We also had a drafting the best in-ring wrestlers in professional wrestling of all time. So if you guys want to check all of that out, I will put a link in the description box down below for you guys to check out that video. And of course, make sure you guys go check out Carlo, Average Sports Guy. He covers not just wrestling, man. He covers baseball. He covers football, basketball, you name it. If you love sports, then Carlo is your guy. And no doubt you will most likely see Carlo. You know, he's been on this show before, and he will no doubt be on this show, on this platform again sometime soon. So Carlo, if you're watching this, man, shout out to you. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once again, if you guys want to check out that video, it is down in the description box for you guys to check it out. Now for the show. Now let's get into things, man. The first topic that we will discuss is Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch, man, looks like she is getting close to signing things on the dotted line with WWE, as she is back on the WWE's public roster page. Now, usually when WWE has certain wrestlers, if they're not under contract, then usually those types of wrestlers are not really heavily promoted with the company. So the fact that, Becky Lynch is not technically signed a new deal, she's been off the public roster page, but now she has been back on it just a couple of days ago. So that just makes you question, man, that a deal is probably in the works. Some T's still probably need to be crossed. It's probably going to be a big mega deal between both parties. And we obviously, of course, we knew that this was going to be the final decision being made, that Becky Lynch was going to remain in WWE. But still, for the longest time to her, yes, she was on a hiatus. She took some time off to be with her daughter and, of course, her family and her loved ones and such. But for the longest time, man, it's been a bidding war to where they just could not come to a certain agreement from what we've heard from many reports over the last several months now. And it seems like now being back on WWE's platform, on their roster page, it seems like they're pretty close to that said deal. And again, we don't know, what the deal is being placed or what's offered, but seeing her back on this roster page seems to me like it's sooner rather than later that you'll see Becky Lynch sooner rather than later in WWE. Probably for when Raw goes to Netflix, you would assume that's probably when you'll see Charlotte Flair probably back. Who knows? Maybe before the Rumble, maybe after the Rumble, maybe it's during the Rumble. She makes an appearance for the Royal Rumble. Who knows? But Brian, real quick, man, any thoughts about that? Potentially with Becky Lynch returning to WWE and hopefully in time for Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always thought she was going to sign back anyway. Excuse me. So, yeah, great. She had, time off and everything. She's ready to get back in the ring. We as wrestling fans are all going to welcome her back. And yeah, it'll be good to see her back. And what kind of role she's going to be in, or, just what's going to be going down. So, yeah, if it's coming soon, shout out to her and whatever contract she might have signed. And I guess we'll see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And much love to Becky Lynch too. And I'm sure, who knows now with of course, with her daughter, I'm sure, depending on what her schedule is going to be like now. I mean, we see that now with top stars with Roman Reigns. Seth
Sure.
Rollins, it seems like he's still like on that full-time schedule, but the way that he's, put his body and just, crazy amount of just
absolutely.
pain and just, freaking just all of this stuff in over the last several months. So who knows with Seth Rollins' future too. As well as many other top stars like Rhea Ripley and such. I mean, obviously she's still in the prime of her career, but Becky Lynch is, I'm sure, at that point to where you might see maybe not a part-time schedule, but maybe not as much of Becky Lynch that maybe people would like to see, if that makes sense. But who knows? I mean, obviously we'll need to know more about this deal. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be a lots of money on the table for this said deal, but much love to Becky. And hopefully, again, I'm not the biggest Becky Lynch fan, but, hopefully, bringing Becky Lynch back, and if there's a plan, it could definitely add a spark. I mean, she is a top star in this company. Of course, we got Netflix. There's always still hope with that, and maybe some change in creative. Who knows? But much love to Becky Lynch. And Royal Rumble, ? WrestleMania, ? Only time will tell when it comes to that. All right, now let's get to some ratings. I know, ratings talk, right, James? Ratings don't matter. Oh, right there, one for you. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So NXT, right? You have NXT and AEW. Of course, you guys know they went head-to-head. We talked all about that. We talked separately about both shows just from last episode. And the ratings are in. AEW Dynamite scored a 523,000 for their show, while NXT scored 619,000. So not a shocker. NXT takes the W in that head-to-head battle from this past Wednesday, as AEW Dynamite lost 100,000 viewership to NXT, or ECW nostalgia, pretty much an ECW style show, as they were in the 2300 arena. So yeah, man, how should I start this? I guess I'll start by saying this, man, right? I mean, it's no shock. Again, I said it going into it and before we talked about it in the last show, just last episode, that NXT was most likely going to take this, just because it almost, of course, going back ECW and that nostalgia, I'm sure maybe a lot of people just had more interest. Like, oh snap, there's freaking RVD, right? There's Bubba Ray Dudley.
Devon.
So I'm sure a lot of people were interested to see how things were going to play out. But here, man, if you're Tony Khan, right? And I just have to say this, man, like this, if you're Tony Khan waking up the next morning and seeing these ratings, I'm fucking pissed off. Because, and I'll tell you why, because you allow NXT, right, a show that was pretty much an ACW type of nostalgia show. I mean, let's be honest, that's pretty much what it was. You allow them to come over to Wednesday night and beat y'all, right? That's like, if you're Tony Khan, you have to like be beside yourself and just like put your foot down and say like, man, enough is enough, bro. Like, how many times do I have to go ahead with these guys or head to head with these people and always be the short end of the stick, right? To where you put your top stars like a Jon Moxley, the Hurt Syndicate, some, Christian Cage and Hook in that storyline, right? And yet still some old timers from ECW beat you by over 100,000 viewers, man. That's not good. And it's not even on, and it's on your day, on Wednesday night. Yeah. NXT's on Tuesday night. So that just says a lot. And man, again, if I'm Tony Khan, man, like something at this point has got to give, because when I talk about ratings all the time, man, if people are interested, the ratings will let you know. And clearly a lot more people wanted to stick over to the CW network, and they were just more entertained about what was going on over there, as opposed to AEW's big storylines that they got going on. Malachi Black had a match with Adam Cole, right? Good match, right? Good match. And, we talked about this MJF and Adam Cole storyline. We're not even going to get into that really. But it's with Malachi Black, man, to where he had to go on social media, on an Instagram page, and I even mentioned it last episode, to where a lot of people were confused, right? This match, it looked like a sign off for Malachi Black. It looked like he was leaving or potentially retiring. Fightful was like, well, his contract is coming up. He might be leaving. And then Malachi is just on social media. He's like, none of this is true. I'm not leaving, nor am I retiring. And on one end, it's like, okay, you want to like clear the air on some things. It's just like, all right, like enough of this conversation, like enough, like what are we talking about? Like, why is this even a discussion, right? On one end for Malachi, like, cool, good for him. Like you're trying to, clear the air on some things. But if you're a talent, right, if the booking is that bad to where fans are just confused, to where like Malachi, he's hugging Adam Cole like he's signing off of AEW or signing off of television, right? Because that's not Malachi's character. So for Malachi to say this, like, I don't know why people are saying these things, why they're retiring. And on Fightful's end to where like, oh, like he's going to be leaving AEW. This is it. This is the sign off. Like, okay, that's on Fightful. But for the fans, it's just like, how can you second guess them when all they're just trying to do is trying to make things make sense? Like you're hugging Adam Cole for what? Because of a good match? Then that's just out of your character. And I've talked about, guys, this mutual respect and the handshakes and the hugs, to where if like a talent, Brian, shouldn't have to like go on social media and explain the booking and explain what was going on. Because if that's the case, there's a real fucking issue with this booking and what's going on. So if you're like, it doesn't really come a shock, right, that people are confused. And now here's Malachi Black that's going to have to clear the air. What does that say about the booking, that a talent has to clear the air on everything that's going on? And it's going to make people like Fightful look stupid. And it makes Tony Khan look stupid. And it's weird. And this is what I mean, man, about wrestling nowadays, to where we just love to blur the lines and we just love to just be focused on the handshake and the competitive matchup. And it's just like, guys, if we keep doing this, wrestling is not going to survive. It's just not. And using somebody like Malachi Black, right, to where he's hugging Adam Cole just for the love and the respect for a good match, when his character is the mystique, the smoke and mirrors, it's just weird. So you don't really blame for fans being like, what's going on? Is he retiring? Is this a send-off? Like, because this is a weird interaction for Malachi to do. So if you're a fan and you're like, this is weird, let me tune over to NXT. So that type of booking should tell you that NXT with the higher rating, that really shouldn't come to a shock, because it's befuddling booking that Malachi Black was in. But NXT takes the victory. Brian, what are your thoughts, man, about these ratings and about Malachi Black, or anything that you've taken away about both of these shows, or what you were able to see from AEW and NXT?
Yeah, for sure. It's never good when the rest of the talent themselves has to explain it. But as far as Tony Khan and the ratings itself, I mean, he's in some cases, and not that it's a pass or whatever, but in some ways, like when things like that happen, like WWE does now and will always have this, a bag of former talents, nostalgia acts, all those types of things that they can pull at the drop of a hat, right? And it doesn't matter if it's the ECW nostalgia, or if it was an NWO or The Rock, or I mean, just any of those things,
right.
That almost just in and of itself is going to guarantee them, unless, again, Tony Khan, yes, the product does have to step it up, obviously. But yeah, in times like that, when you add that nostalgia factor in of a different era, and you're pulling those fans back in, it's you're probably not going to win anyway. But no doubt, 500,000 on your main show is garbage.
It's not good. It's not good at all. Yeah. And the thing is, though, too, Brian, this is the thing about like, you know, quarterly hours as well as people switching from channel to channel, right? Like the way that I take away from these ratings is that clearly fans, or most fans, I'm sure, were switching back to TNT as well as the CW network, right? And it's crazy that, like you said, ECW nostalgia, and then you look over to TNT to where you see Malachi Black in this awkward booking, right? Or just something from AEW, or the learning tree and the conglomeration in a freaking 6-man tag. And you wonder, and you would think like that's what you have to compete with an ECW
Right.
type of show. Like that's what I mean. Like clearly we can be doing better. AEW could be doing a lot better to allow those fans to be like, dude, I can't miss a single thing about what's going on in
Sure.
TNT. Yes, I love ECW, right? It's the nostalgia. I love Bubba Ray. I love RVD, but I can't miss this storyline, what's going on. So the fact that fans would rather go back in time to look at a bunch of old timers, no offense, right? We all love the RVDs and such, but to go
Yeah.
back in time and reminisce on some ECW nostalgia than AEW's current product and storylines, to me, that just speaks a lot. And like you said, like, I mean, 523,000, man, that's just not good. And the
And
fact that
also, there's still, sorry to cut you off.
no, you're good.
We still haven't even like evolved out. There's still, and this is why, like, especially with the ratings and like even when Tony Khan says whatever he says, it's still AEW's #1 show versus WWE's #3 show,
Yeah,
and you're still not
that's
beating them. So it's not
right.
like it's really like I can't even really take it seriously because you're not even really competing with Raw or SmackDown or so
Yeah,
it's
no.
it's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's we're at a point, even like we talked about it too. It's just like we expected this type of edge to happen. Like we expected
Yeah.
NXT, and the fact that we expected that going into it, Brian, also kind of says a lot about the AEW product. And I don't know too, Brian, because there's a lot of fans too that just want to desperately just see AEW fail so miserably to where they just don't care about the AEW product at all. And they just like, oh, okay, NXT, they're in the old ACW arena, the 2300 arena. Okay, boom, I got something to watch on Wednesday night. Yeah, AEW, I just don't care about it at all. Like I don't want to see them succeed. I hope they just fail and go out of business, right? You got a lot of those people too. So I'm sure to a slight degree that could be a possibility. And which is why I love this type of competition, right? I love when
Mhm.
these two types of companies do go head to head, because hopefully now with Tony Khan, when you have NXT, like you said, that's kind of like that third tier type of show for WWE, and they're still beating them, not just on a Tuesday night, but coming over on a Wednesday on their night and still beating
Yeah.
them. At some point, Tony Khan has to put his foot down and say, like, all right, we got to do something here, because clearly we're not getting the bang for everybody's buck, if that makes sense. We're not bringing in
Right.
any interest or much interest to the wrestling fan base if this is the number that we're bringing in. Because once we do go to Max on a streaming service, how much people going into it are going to be interested of what we're doing because of the product that we're putting out. So
Yeah.
it's there's a whole bunch of avenues to kind of dissect it, but again, I wanted to mention the whole Malachi Black thing because that was just very, very odd. On one end, I like the fact that he's calling people out like Fightful, like stop spreading misinformation. But for the fans' sake, I don't blame them for reacting that way, because if you were to have Malachi leave AEW in that fashion, and he's like, all right, come here, let's bring in a hug. This is a send off. It's a big moment. That would make sense. But the fact that,
Yeah.
okay, he's going to be right back
Right.
next week. They're facing FTR next week. He's going to be in that same shtick and persona when we all just saw you hug Adam Cole just for the respect of a good match. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not your character. That's not what you do. It's like, oh, but James, but they're turning them face.
And here's the
Why are we?
thing, even with the whole respect of the good match and all that and whatever, like I get like I mean that everybody has to make it part of the show now or something because every or
Yeah,
99% of these wrestlers once they go back through that curtain, that's what they're doing anyway, giving each other hugs and handshakes
Right.
and, you know,
Right.
you
Dude,
know,
it's just like we got to stop pulling back the curtain, especially when we're live in front of a wrestling audience, to where, we talk about like, oh, it's like if you're not suspending your disbelief anyway, that's your own fault. Well, the wrestlers and the company have to carry their own weight as well for us to
right.
suspend that disbelief, right? And again, people say like, oh, it's a handshake, it's a hug, it doesn't mean anything. But guys, you're doing this with people like Malachi Black, Brock Lesnar, who I remember shook Cody Rhodes' hand, people like Gunther, and the character just doesn't make sense. And the story doesn't call for them to even do that anyway. If this was like freaking Giovanni Vinci versus like fucking, I don't know, just pulling out a name, Andrade,
Ludwig Kaiser,
right?
like
Ludwig Kaiser,
you know,
right? And you would have them like.
are you talking about like if like shaking hands at the end or something?
Yeah, because like if Giovanni Vinci were to shake hands with Andrade at the end of the match, I'll be like, all right, because we don't really know what a Giovanni Vinci is anyway. So this would be kind of a way to maybe, I guess, tap into something, right? To me, because we don't, because that handshake, with Vinci and Andrade, I'm like, okay, I can see that because it's Vinci. I don't know what Vinci is, but guess what? I know what Malachi Black is. He's a diabolical heel. And the fact that people are telling me that, oh, this is leading them to a face turn, that doesn't mean you still have him go out there and shake his hand and completely go against everything about his character. And by the way, what is House of Black turning face going to do? Is that helping their booking? Like, what is turning House of Black and Malachi Black face? What is that doing to help their booking? So neither one of it makes sense at all. So I don't know, man. Just whole lot of stuff, but I won't go too far into it. But hopefully, again, I just wish that Tony Khan finally gets a fucking wake-up call with this, man. And, obviously, like you said, Brian, to a certain extent, when you go up against a juggernaut like WWE, you can only do so much. But when I watch AEW sometimes, and we've talked about it numerous times, they clearly could be having a better consistent flowing show than what they're putting on.
Absolutely.
Because Learning Tree and the conglomeration, guys, I'm telling you right now, is not going to cut it, right? It's just freaking not, right? Having Malachi Black and Adam Cole, right? Having mutual respect, having a weird handshake that people get so befuddled and confused. Oh, let's go watch Bubba Ray Dudley in a tag match with Trick Williams because that's just more entertaining to me personally, right? Or to anybody. Yeah. So I just hope it's a wake up call, man. Right? At this point now, like you have to put your foot down and say like enough, man. Like we need to put on the best quality show from top to bottom and just go all out, right? Just put your best foot forward. And then at that point, whatever the rating is the rating. Because if we dissect a show, Brian, and if it's really good, then that's when I'll give like a mulligan to where like, all right, this show was really good and they were up against a big juggernaut like the NFL or the NBA, right? And they were still how maybe to maintain or let's say go up a couple thousand viewers, right? Then I'm like, all right, golf clap. You were able to maintain because you put on a good quality show. Yeah. But this past Wednesday, man, I didn't see that. I saw some good, but I didn't see a good, consistent flowing show. I just didn't. And this rating just speaks or just tells you like it is. It just tells you everything you need to know. So that's the rating, guys. That's a bunch of ratings talk. Now let's get into some SmackDown. And why don't we make this a separate topic as it's been all over the place over the last 24, 48 hours now. And that is a new championship that has now been revealed in WWE. And that is the WWE Women's United States Championship. People wanted a mid-card championship for the women, and they got it. It's now a thing now to where, and there's a lot of mixed feelings, right? People feel like, oh, this should have been like having its own identity. Like, why is it a knockoff with the U.S. Championship? To that, I say, well, NXT is already doing that with over and like you have the men's North American Championship and you have the Women's North American Championship. So it's kind of pretty much that same type of formula. So I can hear where people are coming from there. I mean, it's a good looking title. I mean, I'm a sucker for like the white strap belts. I think the Intercontinental Championship back in the day was the same thing. So I'm a sucker for that, obviously. Now, the question is, right, is this really needed? Right? Is this title belt going to truly benefit the women's division? Is this going to truly help the women's division booking and really kick things into high gear, right? And here's my answer to this, right? And I want everybody to ask themselves this. As much as this could benefit a lot of these women in the locker room, right? You know, you go through the Chelsea Greenses, the Meachins, right? The Naomis, right? Whatever name that you want to pluck out of a hat. I want people to ask this question to themselves. Is adding another championship truly benefiting the booking of this women's division? Is adding another championship rectifying and is going to make the women's division, their booking, that much more special? And I'll be honest with you, Brian, the answer is no. I'm going to be honest with you, because now you're adding a championship to where it's not needed, because why can't you just book non-title feuds in a captivating way? You know what's a great example? CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, right? I'll give a couple seconds to people watching. Does people remember what title was on the line for that feud? I'll give you guys 2 seconds. The answer is none. There was no title on the line. So why can't you? And they know how to do that. You do it with the men in the men's roster. Why can't you do that with the women's division? To where now we need another championship that's just going to potentially get devalued like all these other championships. Here's another great example. Rhea Ripley. Are we really going to go back and try to remember anything from her world championship victory after she won it at WrestleMania 39? The answer is no. Bianca Belair, the same way. She was one of the longest reigning Raw Women's Champions. Does anybody truly remember about 80% of that championship title reign? The answer is no. So what is a championship going to do? From what we've seen in past experience, what is another championship going to do that's going to make the booking of these women that much more special, when you should have been booking these women properly before this championship was even a thing? Oh, but don't worry, we got this brand new shiny title. Now we're going to rectify the booking. You already should have been booking these women properly. And I'll send this off to you, Brian. These women don't need a championship. They just need good booking. And the fact that you need another championship where you have around 30 some odd people on your women's roster in total, and there's now 5 championships on your roster, I just don't know how necessary this is. I just don't. But Brian, I'd love to get your thoughts, man, about this brand new shiny title, this new mid-card championship for the women's division, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it almost feels like a trick question, kind of, man. Because like I agree with everything you said, but I don't know why. I do kind of like the new title here, or introducing a new title. Because I think, well, everything you said, you're right. Like all of this, it doesn't matter what it is really going to come down to the booking. Like, yeah, right. I mean, you can add the new title, you can make a stipulation match, or you can do whatever it is. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's the fucking booking.
Right.
But I think it will give women somewhat of a platform of just something like, sometimes, I mean, we see it with the men all the time. Yes, sometimes the story is just going to be going after the title. Like, that's the story.
Right.
And if you only have one women's title, and there's a handful, a dozen, people that that, okay, for whatever reason or perception, they're never, because there's just not enough spots for, like, everybody can't be fighting for the world title, So, okay, you got this mid-card title. I think it just, and as you know, with WWE, with their promotion, I think it's going to give those women the opportunity now, just for the simple fact that they hold the title, they're going to go out to an interview, a talk show, this promotion, or that promotion. So right. I think in that aspect, I think it's a good thing.
Sure.
But you're right. It all comes down to the fucking booking. Like,
Yeah.
you still have to build feuds. You still have to, like, if you're just throwing it out there and now, but again, they do it with the men too. If every fucking month you're just doing a tournament, a tornado tag, or whatever for this fucking title, then yeah, it's gonna shit the bed, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and no doubt. I mean, of course, like when this title really gets up and going, obviously the first person, whoever wins that title, yeah, like business wise and for them personally, they're going to be on all the promotional ads and all the covers of
Yeah,
whatever magazine or whatever the case may be, right? Our headlines on social media with the brand new championship, right? We know like the business side of things, it's not only helping WWE, but it's also helping to an extent the first lady that does win this championship. But
which I
now,
want
but
to
as
let's. I think we got to talk about that, man.
so yeah, so the question is, right, who would be more beneficial to be the first women to win this championship? Now, there's obviously, like I mentioned, there's people like a Naomi, right? There's people like a Michin, and there's people like over on Monday Night Raw, right? A Selena Vega, as both brands will be collectively going after this said championship. As I'm sure more details will be out about what's going to happen and everything. But people like a Selena Vega, people like, I guess, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, I guess Maxine Dupree, people like Ivy Nile. But I know a lot of people would love to see this championship on none other than Chelsea Green, right? As we've said so many times about Chelsea Green and how good she is, and we are just waiting for something more for her than just to be the comedic act, right? And I saw a post that you put up, Brian, or a post that you shared on our Facebook page about, if you were to book Chelsea Green holding on to the U.S. Women's Championship, then you can make her like a Miss America type of character. And that, no doubt that could work. And that could be really, really good to not just elevate Chelsea Green's character, but the title itself. So I'm down for that too. And if you can use that for storylines to where it's bigger than just the championship, then that would be a start. That would honestly be a really, really good fit. So yeah, I think in regards to that, I mean, who knows? They could also, I could see like people like a Becky Lynch or even a Charlotte Flair at some point down the road winning this fucking shit. At least down the road, I can legit see that,
bro,
man. I could, bro.
I got four names in mind, man.
So collectively, who I guess would personally like to say it. I don't like to give out my personal feelings, but I will do so anyway. So yes, one of them obviously is Chelsea Green, because I do want to see this woman get something than just be the comedic act on the show. She plays it well, but eventually fans are going to want to have a little bit more than that. Another name, man, is Selena Vega. Selena Vega, to where she is so damn good. And at some point, man, like, you gave her that match in Puerto Rico in Backlash against Rhea Ripley, and she hasn't done a thing outside of being in an LWO shtick that's not doing anything for anybody, man. So if you were to maybe give her this opportunity and showcase her to remind people how good Selena Vega is, then Selena Vega, who is damn talented, not just as a manager, as a mouthpiece, but as a wrestler too. So Selena Vega is also my number 2 option. Obviously, of course, Naomi, man. Just give something to Naomi to where if you don't want to give her a non-title feud, then now you have this championship. Put that freaking title on her, man, at some point, man. And the shit that you can do. I remember when she did like the glow in the dark championship when she won the WWE Women's Championship. Do you know what you can do for merchandise and for money to sell those types of glow championship? And you can do that maybe with the US now.
Dude, they
WWE
fly off the fucking shelf.
Dude, absolutely. Now Vince McMahon, of course, this was years ago to where Vince McMahon and other executives, they told Naomi that yeah, you're not doing that because this was clearly because it was her idea, and WWE doesn't like that when ideas come from other wrestlers, because now we're in an era of wrestling to where if it's not the WWE way, then it's the freaking highway. And that's just, and that's a completely different discussion. But this was on Total Divas, to where Naomi showcased like a Glow Championship, and then executives and WWE directors told her to not do it anymore. And who knows, maybe now under a different leaf under Triple H. And I know I give him a hard time, but maybe to where the atmosphere is a lot more different, to where now they can tolerate those types of things now. So maybe that you can showcase that with Naomi. So I'll just give those three names as of right now. So for me, it's Chelsea Green, you got Selena Vega, and you got Naomi for me. So Brian, what are your takes, man, of who you would like to see hold on to this mid-card title?
So I got four names. Well, I got four names. Two of them I'd like to see, like the Chelsea Green thing. Like that, I'd like to see that be interesting. That'd be fun. But I don't think WWE has any intention of putting that on
That's
her.
the sad no. Exactly.
Yeah. What I'm scared of, like the last two, is because have they said like how they're determining it or when they're going to do,
that I don't believe has been
like.
I don't think that has been announced yet. It could just be a nonsensical tournament, probably. They'll do like separate, because it is from both brands. It's both from SmackDown and Raw are going to go after this title. So I don't know if it's going to be some type of said tournament. Maybe they'll crown this champion for Survivor Series, maybe for Saturday night's main event, or I don't know. You would think to crown this new champion, they would do this at a big stage. But again, I'm just speaking hypothetically because there hasn't been no further updates on it. But yeah.
So what I'm dreading, and I hope I'm fucking wrong, is either a returning Becky or a returning Charlotte. Like one of those two are going to win it. Because here's the thing. I think what's really going to be important to WWE, and not just for right now, because they're always going to go back and reference the first one. They're always going to do that. So whoever that first one is going to be really, really important. So honestly, my number two is Tiffany Stratton. And I only say that, I know she's got the money in the bank, but if you're going to have this U.S. title, I would imagine you kind of have to book it, or should book it, like maybe the IC title was back in the day, where like this is the stepping stone, like, to get to the world title. I know she's got the money in the bank and whatever, but I don't see her cashing that in anytime soon, really. So if you had her have like a short little, few month, U.S. title run before she did that, okay. But yeah, my number one is fucking Naomi, man. Like, dude, like if you introduce this title, like I'm sorry, like I don't think, not that she doesn't have the talent or she can't cut it, but there's again whatever, so many spots and only one title. But yeah, man, fucking Naomi, absolutely,
yeah. I mean, we'll see, man. And yeah, you're 100% right. If they're gonna promote this first ever champion, right, when it comes to any type of company or promotion, they want that person to be their, I guess, top guy or gal, that's going to be marketable, that people, at least maybe, I guess, some type of casual audience knows who these people are, right? That is a Charlotte Flair and a Becky Lynch, to like you said. But yeah, when you think of this mid-card title, man, like I said, yeah, Chelsea Green, yeah, you're right. Like right now, I think they're just content with her just being this comedic act, to where, like, I would love to see it, but yeah, like I think if we're all being real,
if it was like a Miss America thing, oh yeah, she'd not.
Dude, I love it, man. And she would, bro, absolutely, bro. She would hit a grand slam with that shit, absolutely.
Yep.
So yeah, but obviously, if we're being real, like the chances of that are like the New York Jets winning the Super Bowl. It's not gonna fucking happen. So yeah, but yeah, Naomi, dude, like, just give her something, man. Like, she's paid her dues for 15 plus years in this industry. Not only give her this championship, right? Because if you're, and the other thing is too, right? And I'll get back to Naomi in just a second. We'll get into SmackDown. If you're going to have this mid-card title, get rid of these tag titles, man. Just get rid of them. They're serving no benefit or anything to these shows. right? You have Jade and Bianca, who are the champions, who you could build a division around of. But they thought we were going to do that with Sasha Banks and Bayley. We thought that they were going to do that with Sasha Banks and Naomi. Oh, imagine what you can do if you could build a division around them. And week after week, month after month goes by, and they never do it. So, Brian, I'm done giving the benefit of the doubt that this could.
Starks, I think you could do it.
Right? Yeah, no, like they said, there's names and there's teams to where you can do it, but clearly WWE just doesn't want to do it. It's not their main priority. So if it's not a priority, get rid of the titles. Just get rid of them, because the last thing that we need, because who knows if this championship over the next several months to a year is going to be just as irrelevant as these tag titles are. I mean, who freaking knows? So that's the hope that it doesn't work out that way. But look, if this now, of course, again, a lot of benefit could come from this. Obviously, if this is a way that we're going to finally give women decent booking outside of the women's title from people like Rhea, Becky, Charlotte, and a bunch of other names that maybe I'm forgetting, then I'm all for it. But at the same time, Brian, I still question, why couldn't you be doing this in non-title feuds to begin with anyway? To where every championship now, because of how lackluster it is, it's just going to feel like a consolation prize rather than a big epic moment in victory, So, and that's it. But yeah, Naomi, going back to her, man, she's paid her dues for 15 plus years. We've been just legit, not begging, but freaking just screaming to the high heavens to give this woman something, just an opportunity of what she could do, right? And granted, right, she's not the greatest on the microphone. She's decent on the microphone. She's okay, but obviously her strength is in her athleticism, and she's just as athletic, if not more, than anybody on this women's roster.
For sure. Yeah.
So no doubt, man, Naomi would be definitely a great candidate. At least would be awesome if she were the first person to win it, but it's WWE, man. So who the hell knows? So, so that's my take about this championship. As much as I see the good that comes out of it, I just don't necessarily see how needed this is, if that makes any sense. Sure. Because you should be already booking these women properly, but now you got a shiny new title. Okay, now we're gonna kick things into high gear. It's just okay. So those are my thoughts, man. Beautiful looking championship. Hopefully it works, and we'll see how they're going to go about it, whether it's a tournament, who the hell knows, but I'm sure we'll know more later on. All right, now let's get to SmackDown, man. Let's start off, as we won't go over all of these segments, of course, but let's get to the bread and butter here. Let's get into Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, right? So Kevin Owens, he is out in the middle of the ring. He storms to the ring. He's calling out Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens has this Kevin Owens is right shirt. He's got all these crazy shirts. I think he had a shirt of Cowboy Bob Orton during the brawl in Crown Jewel just a couple weeks ago, or just last week or week and a half ago. Something about Cody and what was it, a dusty shirt, wearing a dusty shirt in his match not too long ago at Bash in Berlin or whatever. So clearly trying to stoke a little bit of that heel persona in him, I guess. So Kevin Owens comes out, they storm the ring, they brawl, referees are out there, executives are out there. Kevin Owens is gaining the upper hand. He hits a pile driver to Randy Orton, and this dude is done in the snap of a finger, right? He's done. He's out. They got the stretcher out. He's being carried out. Cody Rhodes is there to help him backstage, getting carried out on a stretcher out to the to backstage areas. They really drew this out. Kevin Owens was shoving people out the way, and that's when he delivered the pile driver. Now, there's many ways to look at this, right? Now, the pile driver, from what I was able to come across, has been a banned move from WWE for a while, right? I think it's been a while since you've seen a pile driver in WWE, so they wanted to kind of touch up on that, a pile driver. We've never seen that in years, right? And it's Randy Orton. He's banged up. He's got all these nagging injuries, right? So it's believable for him to kind of go out like that and sell this type of segment. And that to agree, okay, fine. But man, it's just it's a pile driver, right? We've seen 80 gazillions of those in AEW, to where they miraculously have another 20 minutes of a banger match, and then Randy Orton is just done and out. So again, I'm mixed about it because if you were to do this like go amplified and do this like on concrete floor or like on the steel steps or maybe through like an announce table to like amplify it, it was just a simplistic pile driver, you know? And it's just, and I get it, again, the injuries and all, which I'm fine with. I didn't mind the segment. I just thought it was a little weird, to where maybe if this was like a Paul Heyman that took this move, yeah, like he's a manager, he would be down and out, he need a stretcher, right? Or somebody like freaking a Robert Stone in NXT, or freaking any type of manager, I guess. I don't know. That's off the top of my head. So I just thought it was kind of weird. And clearly there's no coexisting going on with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Then they would be the dumbest people on earth if this was actually a business working relationship, as I thought that this would be. Clearly it's not. So yeah, so then it kind of questions, all right, so then what are we going to do with Orton in this turn, if that's ever even going to happen? You know, Cody Rhodes and where he stands with all of this, right? So I'm mixed about it. So Brian, I want to get what are your thoughts about it, man? Your thoughts about this segment, Kevin Owens pile driving Orton and Randy Orton getting sent out on a stretcher, man. What do you think?
I actually loved it, man. I mean, mostly, and really it was KO selling at the end. But yeah, but the one drawback I do have to it is because yes, they're obviously playing up the neck surgery and the back surgery for Orton.
Yeah.
And that's why this pile driver is so devastating. And he sold it great.
He did.
However, like my issue with it is now like, so you know this history and they got this bad move and Orton is selling it like he's on the verge of being paralyzed. But now you know he's coming back in 2 weeks. I just think like if you were, because there's going to be a War Games,
right?
like,
yeah. Uh-huh.
So
or
like,
if it's Saturday, or if it's
angle,
Saturday night's main event, probably if they stretch it out a couple more weeks, probably on December.
Man, that might be, but if they stretch it out to that, then cool.
Right.
But if it comes back at War Games,
yeah,
I just think to telling that story of how you're trying to tell how devastating this is, and nah, man, I'm good in 2 weeks. I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But to KO selling at the end, where it was like he kind of, it was like, oh shit, like I think I just went too far, and he might really be fucked. And yeah, that was great, man. Yeah.
No, like, I mean, for what they were given to do, like, I mean, it's Kevin Owens and Orton did a very, very good job in regards to it. I'm just mixed about it because, yeah, if you include the injuries that Orton has and they're trying to tell that story to it, then all right, yeah, but absolutely right. Yeah, because if they were to just do this at Survivor Series and like, all right, he's back on his feet, he's ready to go, he's going to fight in 2 weeks. Yeah, that would be like, that would be weird. Yeah,
but yeah, if they push it back to Saturday night's main event, yeah, okay,
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, again, I didn't mind it. I think it was just a little weird because, and again, I don't know if it's because I've seen pile drivers in AEW. I've seen so many people because if Randy Orton's getting back and if people are taking pile drivers, then Tony Khan's going to need a fucking ambulance 24/7 because you'll see pile drivers all over the place in AEW. And I hate to make that comparison, but I guess that's just kind of like, you know, like we see all the power moves now and the devastating power moves and sometimes the no selling and all that. So I guess to that past experience, it's a little weird for me now seeing that. But if you do talk about like, all right, he's injured, he's playing like the neck injury in the back and all that, I'm like, all right, I can accept it and tolerate it. But hopefully, like you said, Brian, this is not just something that they do this for like a 2-week time frame and then they just have
if you do it for like a 2-week time frame, then you just killed the story.
Yeah,
like,
it would make more sense to do this at Saturday night's main event, which I have a good feeling. And again, I don't like giving WWE the benefit of the doubt, but I will say that this will probably be at Saturday night's main event. Is when they'll stretch that out because they have been, to a degree, really trying to stretch out this matchup. And I think because they want the focal point too to be about of course, War Games with the Bloodline. So they're going to continue. And we'll get to the Bloodline, of course, in just a second. So, because, yeah, like if you were to do this like in 2 weeks, man, that would just degrade this entire segment, like everything that just happened here. So yeah, very, very interesting. And I liked how they let it breathe, right? So I respect that. They sent him off in the stretcher and they let the moment breathe and everything. Cody Rhodes was there. I respect that. It's just from past experience and seeing the pile driver move from what I've seen in past experiences from all these power moves and the no selling. I guess it was kind of like whoa, like what's going on here type of deal. But for what people were doing in this segment, for how they execute it, like you said, Brian, it was done very well. And I'll see where this goes in regards to it. But yeah, for what they did, I thought it was fine. I just also thought it was kind of weird to a certain degree, but still they performed it very well. But we'll see if this is either at Survivor Series, Saturday night's main event. I guess we'll soon find out. Let's get to the Bloodline, man. Let's cap this off, the show. So we'll start off with the opening segment to start the show off. So you have the Bloodline all in the middle of the ring. You have Sami Zayn, you've got Roman Reigns, you've got Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, the OG Bloodline. They're all out there, and Roman Reigns, and of course, this is all between both Sami and Roman Reigns. And Sami Zayn goes like, listen, I will do this, right? I will fight side by side with you until you apologize. And Roman's like, I'm going to apologize to you? Like, are you nuts? Like, what are you smoking? And Sammy's like, no, not apologize to me. I want you to apologize to Jey. And you hear like a small little crowd pop. And then Roman Reigns turns over to Jey and he's like, Jey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to waste my time dealing with this, pointing to Sami Zayn. He's not blood. He's not even honorary. He's not an Uso. He's a waste of my time. This is about Solo Sikoa. Scream Solo's name into the hard cam. Jacob Fatu shows up on the Titantron. Good promo. Execute. I mean, I love Jacob Fatu when he talks. Now, here's where the reality of this promo is, to where I thought the ending was kind of flat, to where like, oh, Solo doesn't come out on your accord. Solo comes out, the tribal chief comes out when he wants to come out, and you will acknowledge him with his prayer. And that was the segment. Now, in the moment, like I said, I thought that it had such good momentum, right, with Sami and Roman. I thought it was doing really well. And obviously we'll know why this was the case when we talk the closing segment. But I was like, man, this ended with just Jacob saying like, oh, Solo doesn't come out on your accord, and you're eventually going to acknowledge Solo Sikoa. And I'm like, okay, that's it? Really? And then the segment just ends. So I thought it was a very anticlimactic finish to the segment, when overall I thought the segment was done very well. But obviously we'll know more when we talk the closing segment later on. But Brian, man, what are your thoughts, dude? This opening segment, before we get to the closing segment of the show, what are your thoughts about this opening segment with the Bloodline?
Man, I tell you, they got me, because I was starting to get fired up at first, man. Because like what I've been saying the whole time, like, man, you're gonna fucking turn this shit into make Sami the center point. And like, yeah, when he was up until that point, where he was like, no, not apologize to me, apologize to Jey.
Yeah.
Man, I was like, you motherfuckers. But yeah, once that happened, I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I liked, I did like the Jacob Fatu promo. I was okay with kind of how it ended, because it still left it in the air, kind of where Sami, he's throwing it out there like, yeah, I'm with you. If you can just, I mean, basically like, humble yourself, sit the fuck down for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, overall, I liked it. But yeah, in the beginning, I was like, oh man, Jesus, here we go, dude. This is what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
yeah.
and like and the reason why I say that, it was mainly because if it was in the moment, to where obviously, like I said, knowing what they did in the closing segment, I'm like, okay, like that's why they kind of ended that segment the way. But still, like, it was really like you said, like, apologize not to me, but to Jay. I thought that was a really good little, climactic little plot twist, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah, man, I mean, it was executed very well. I mean, everybody, again, we talk about some of these bloodline segments, at least the good that comes out of this story and not like the redundant, repetitive way, right? It comes out so well. It really does, to where everybody does their part very well. And this was no different. But now let's get to the closing segment, right? So you have this, I guess it's an acknowledgement ceremony in a way, with Solo Sikoa and his bloodline faction. He comes out, and then Roman Reigns.
On. Let me time out right there, because I was confused about this whole thing. Like, because, you know, Solo and that bloodline, like, they've already had that ceremony, correct? Where they acknowledge Solo.
Right.
So were they making the ceremony specifically for Roman to come out there? And because they didn't really make that clear.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Yeah, it was very confusing of the closing segment. Yeah, no, I'll kind of dig into my notes with that, but yeah, you're right. It was very confusing. It's still confusing, but it's something around those lines most likely. But yeah, so again, the bloodline, they're all out there and everything. Roman Reigns comes out, you know, and then of course the brawl ensues. Well, actually, before even that, so Roman Reigns comes out and. You know, Roman Reigns is like, listen, he's like, do you acknowledge Solo as your tribal chief? And like the crowd's like, no. And then Roman's like, yeah, neither do I. Roman issued, I believe it was War Games. I believe it was Roman that issued the challenge. And Solo's like hysterically like laughing. And he's like, dude, I've beat you. Like, I'm already the tribal chief. Or I think he initiated a one-on-one.
A one-on-one match.
Yes, I was saying a one-on-one. Yeah. Yes, my apologies. It was one-on-one at first, one-on-one, and Solo's laughing like, dude, I've already beat you. Like, I'm already the tribal chief, like the real tribal chief here. Like, I don't need to prove anything to you or to anybody. And then that's when War Games kind of came into the conversation. He's like, how about it's you find 4 people against us 5 or whatever. And then Roman's confused. He's like, there's only 4 of you. And Solo's like, 1, 2, pointing to Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu, 3, 4, pointing to himself. And then he says, my dog, Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn walks up the staging area with that sour look on his face, and then that's when the brawl ensues with Roman and the bloodline. The Usos end up running out, but to no avail, as the numbers game is still catching up to them. So all the heels are catching the numbers game. They're in control. Solo sets up for the Samoan spike, but then orders Sami Zayn to come to the ring to kick his face in or deliver a Halula kick. And he delivers the Halula kick, but not to Roman. He delivers it straight between the eyes of Solo Sikoa, and then all of the faces gain the upper hand. All the heels, the bloodline, the new bloodline, fake-ass bloodline, whatever you want to call them, they hightail up the rampway. Jay and Jimmy point up their ones. Sammy and Roman have a little bit of a moment staring at one another, but they both also collectively put up the ones. They all face the hard cam, and that is your visual that the OG bloodline is back together to go up against Solo and his bloodline for War Games, as War Games is pretty much officially set 4-on-4, and now all we're waiting is a returning wise man, Paul Heyman, to make everything kind of come in full circle and all together. Brian, what are your thoughts, man, on this closing segment to SmackDown?
I mean, it was okay. It's like one of those things, much like the first segment, only kind of in reverse. Like, the ending, how they get to the, throwing up the ones. This is where we're at, and I've accepted Sammy's the bloodline, and that's the member.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So yeah, like getting to that, yeah, that was good. But it's like that, in the midst of the storytelling, and I guess you could have gone different ways with it, but like, again, and it's maybe nitpicking, wrestling, yes, we have to suspend disbelief and all that, but like, when Solo says Sammy's the fifth guy, and he comes out and just stands at the end, at the top of the ramp, and then they proceed to beat the shit out of Roman, and he does nothing, and then the Usos come out and they run right by Sammy. Like, if I'm Jimmy,
Yeah,
that Sammy's with Solo, I'm taking Sammy
I'm
out
being
right there.
right. Yeah. It was
So
very
it's just like that little stuff. Like, I don't know how else. I mean, you could have done it in different ways, but again, how it all culminated at the end. Okay, this is where we're at. You know,
yeah.
and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Like,
Oh,
so
yeah,
yeah,
for sure. To where you'll get a returning Rock at some point too, to
yeah,
where it's gonna really kick things into high gear. But that was because I got a few things to where I'm also kind of baffled by in regards to how this was all kind of put together. I'll get that into just a second. But obviously, like the main goal with all of this was to officially set up War Games
right.
now. Like we're in that time frame now to where it's going to be the OG Bloodline against Solo's new Bloodline in War Games, right? So here's my take on it. Again, everybody played their part very well for what was given, right? It was all
Yeah,
done well to a degree, and it accomplished what I guess for WWE's sake it needed to accomplish, right? Here's where I'm confused, right? Because beginning of this segment, this is why I also kind of critique the opening segment. So
hmm
where Roman, so you had Sami Zayn to where, hey, I don't want you to apologize to me. I want you to apologize to Jay. I'm like, brilliant. That's awesome, right? I love that. Kind of like, kind of turning the tables a little bit.
yeah.
Roman denies Sami Zayn's request. He's like, I'm not fighting alongside you unless you apologize.
Right.
Roman didn't apologize for shit. And yet
Yeah.
here's Sami Zayn comes out, and I guess that was all that was needed for Sami Zayn to let bygones be bygones, I guess, to where he was
I mean,
already
I guess it's
going
still
into this.
the tie to Jay, I guess,
The tie to Jay, I guess, to where he's gonna at least pull more for Jay than he is for Roman. He's like, all right, I still don't like Roman, but because I love Jay so much, I appreciate Jay, I'm still gonna do this, I guess. But the whole purpose of it was like, okay, you would think you would maybe, I guess, drag that out for at least one more week, and then finally we see everybody come
Yeah.
into fruition and pulling up the ones to where Sami Zayn his request was denied. So why would he just miraculously now fight alongside Roman and be like, all right, you didn't do what I asked you to do, but I'll fight alongside you anyway. That
Right,
was
right.
just really weird.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That was just fairly weirdly executed there. So yeah, that was just very odd to me. But again,
Yeah, and that
for
kind
W,
of again, it's just that storyline where it plays into like everything leading up to that for I'm looking at this through Jimmy and Jay's eyes, right? Like, okay, so Sammy just said this and Roman denied it, and now
right?
Solo's saying he's the fifth guy, but we're just gonna run right by him. Like, I mean, and Jimmy's like ready
Yeah,
with a super kick for him. So yeah,
it was weird,
it's
man.
just how the little details of how they're telling the story just it
Yeah.
doesn't.
It doesn't
Right,
it
I hear
doesn't
you.
connect at all. It just really just doesn't. And hopefully other people see that to where, yeah, granted, it regardless, again, War Games, it's going to be great. Everybody's going to do their thing, and people are going to say, "Oh, well, James, just relax. We got to this moment. That was the whole purpose, and that's all that matters." Okay, good for you.
But
That's fine. But it's the little details that me and Brian
yeah,
see, guys. It's not so little to where it's still gotta connect, right? Sami Zayn, even on Raw, said like, bro, I'm not doing this. I don't want no part of it. I'm out. To
right.
where Jay had to persuade this dude to even come to SmackDown, right? And now it's like, okay, I'll fight alongside you if you apologize to Jay. And Roman just spit in his face. And now we went
Yeah.
from that earlier on in the night to just now they're all holding up the ones. What?
So
Huh?
I
Yeah.
do anticipate them either on Raw or next SmackDown, like kind of addressing that. Probably with all like
I hope
with
so.
Sammy, Jimmy, and Jay, like all saying like, no, like you have a lot
Yeah.
of work to do. But yeah, if they don't ever go back and address that, especially Roman apologizing to Jay or Jimmy,
Right.
then yeah, this is nonsense.
Yeah, it would just be, yeah, it's weird, man. It's a little detail in this story that they're trying to tell that's just
Yeah,
not connecting, and it's just not minor, like really at all. It's a big major detail that it's still gotta make sense. But and again, a lot of people are just gonna not really mention, oh, it's all right, we got war games coming up. All right, cool. But again, I still want those little
right.
things to just make sense, man. I want to really truly be like captivated and really think like, oh wow, like now this all makes sense. Like now I'm interested to do all of
Yeah,
this the way it was done. It's just like, huh? Yeah, it was very weird.
yeah.
So, but I mean, again, collectively, everybody, Sammy, Jay, Jimmy, again, for 4+ years now, they've done their part
Oh yeah,
just
absolutely.
so
Yep.
well. And again, man, it's Paul Heyman is on his way. Let's just say he's on his way, and adding him back into this story as well as The Rock. Definitely, maybe if it's done flawlessly, as I'm sure there's potential it could be such,
Yeah,
then maybe
yeah,
you can go back and maybe say like, all right, we won't harp about these little moments too much if moving forward all of this is done flawlessly the way it needs to be done. But yeah, so the OG bloodline, I guess, is back. They're holding up the ones. We got Survivor Series pretty much locked in, and in that sphere, right, in that match card coming up. So we'll see how it all plays out. The show as a whole. Oh man. Again, Kevin Owens and Orton and this bloodline obviously carried the show, at least gained
hmm
some type of interest, right? And of course you have this title that's also carrying headlines. So hopefully the ratings can back this up, as SmackDown has been stuck at a 1.4. Monday Night Raw has been stuck at a 1.4 for a long time. So I would love to see a 1.5-ish, maybe 1.6, to where there's a little bit of interest. Maybe people were able to turn their channels back over to USA Network because of this bloodline story, and maybe because of these stories that's going on, and hopefully it shows in the ratings. Who knows, man? But the women, Bayley or no, not even Bayley. Right? Well, Bayley was in a matchup with Candice
yeah,
LeRae. I'm just like, who the
yeah.
again? I love Bayley, but like, I'm sorry, I didn't give two shits, man. And then you had this tag match too, like, what was it? It was Tiffany and Nia against
So
Bianca
yeah,
and Jade. You had
which Candice and Naomi wound up
Candice and
coming out.
Naomi was out there. I don't understand why that was approved. I get it, guys. Like, Naomi is in this shtick with Nia to where she's going to get a tie. That match didn't need any convoluted type of finish at all. Like,
No,
especially if you're already teasing a Tiffany and Nia turn, you didn't need Candice and Naomi in that spot. You just
not at
didn't.
all.
You could
Yeah, I
have
thought
done
that was
so
really
many.
weird.
That was
Yep.
so weird, man. You didn't need that type of convoluted finish to do that. That was just let all of those four ladies rock and do their thing and tell the story with Tiffany and Nia Jackson. That's it. To throw
Yep.
in Candice and then Naomi, it's just fucking it's just fucking weird, man. And that's why I ask, man, like, is this new women's title,
I
is it really
know.
going to benefit with this type of booking, man? It's a lot of questions, but I guess we'll soon find out over the next several weeks and months. So, but thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Once again, if you guys want to check out my latest collaboration with Carlo, aka the Average Sports Guy, again, we talk about all the upcoming title changes with all the current WWE champions, of what's to come, who's going to take the title off of who. We have a big draft of the best in-ring performers in pro wrestling history. If you guys are into that shit, click that link down below and check out that video. And once again, much love to Carlo, the Average Sports Guy. Make sure you guys go check him out. Great content from all platforms, Instagram and all social media stuff. So make sure you guys go check him out. And of course, as always, man, check us out on Instagram and TikTok. You see the banner down below. That is Ruthless_Talk. We are also available with our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are watching this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, shout out to you. And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are now officially in the cusp of 250 subscribers. We're in that cusp. We're halfway towards 300 subscribers. Would love to get there, at least somewhat close to it before the end of the year. So if you guys know any wrestling fans, man, that love professional wrestling as just as any of us, definitely spread the word. Make sure you guys join the community and stay tuned for some more content to come. Brian, final thoughts, man, before we end the show.
Not much, man. Just thanks everybody for checking us out. And as always, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Yes, sir. That is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
Until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off, saying salutes.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys out.